A lot of that Super Bowl credit feels like it belongs to Shane Steichen, and it belongs to Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator from that Super Bowl appearance that the Eagles had a couple of years ago. So to me, this is a show and prove year, not just for Jalen Hurts, but for Nick Sirianni. Can you be an NFL head coach? Can you provide the leadership, the guidance, and the answers for your players when you hit that inevitable adversity? And 8 Ball says doubtful in my book. I haven't seen anything to show me that Nick Sirianni is going to be a championship-winning coach.
Chris Canty on Unsportsmanlike said that on 97.3 ESPN. Do you agree with Chris Canty? He says there's no evidence to him that Nick Sirianni can be the head coach this team needs. We'll get into that and more. Camp battles begin tomorrow when the team enters training camp. Nick Sirianni will talk at 9 a.m. That just came in, by the way, Jeff Kerr. Don't know if you got that email, but they moved his time from 10 to 9. Nick Sirianni will address the media, and we bring back CBS Sports intrepid NFL writer Jeff Kerr to the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff, football is back.
It's back, Mike. It's definitely back. I'm ready, but it's funny because a lot of the teams started last week, and I was on vacation. So I'm like, you're trying to catch up to what these teams are doing. It's weird that the Houston Texans have basically had a full padded practice already, and we're probably not going to see that from the Eagles until Sunday.
Well, they also play next week, the Houston Texans do, against the Chicago Bears in the Hall of Fame game. So they get a little bit of a head start here. But we all know there's a lot of questions that need answering here. You've been writing about it over at CBS Sports. Some of the training camp questions, the cornerback spot seems to be maybe the number one most intriguing battle at Eagles camp starting tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that definitely is. So to me, that's going to be a fun battle, right? Because last year you had questions. Well, we didn't think you had questions last year at the cornerback position. It was who's going to back up Slay and Bradbury. Well, Bradbury was terrible. Kaylee Ringo didn't see the field until December. And when he did get to see the field and play, he actually looked pretty good. And then, Isaiah Rodgers having a good mini camp. Josh Jobe was a good special teamer. And again, that's a guy to watch, by the way, because he can make this team because he's a good special teamer. So he plays into the mix there. But I didn't do a 53-man roster projection yet, Mike, but I got 5 locks at cornerback. And Slay's one, Kaylee Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, and the 2 rookies, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, obviously everybody's looking at the young kids there, but there's that whole group of others that have been here that we've heard a lot about. They've played a little bit, the Ringos and the Jobes and the Mekhi Gardners, and there's a whole list of those guys. Any of those guys emerge for you?
Well, I think Ringo will. At least it's a solid backup, right? I think Keely Ringo is going to help out this team this year in multiple ways. On special teams, at outside cornerback, you're going to need some depth there. So, yeah, count me in on the Keely Ringo train. And look, I think he has a chance to start week 1. It just depends what direction the Eagles want to go in. Do they want Keely Ringo to be that guy and kind of let Quinyon Mitchell develop just a little more, or do they just throw the gas in the fire and say, you know what, Quinyon Mitchell, we drafted you in the first round. We think you're good enough. You have shown us enough. Learn next to Slay, and we'll do the trial by fire thing.
Isaiah Rodgers, strong minicamp. Where is he in the pantheon of this cornerback battle?
I think he's cornerback depth. But I think he's going to get an opportunity to play, especially a lot this preseason. That's a guy I'm going to be excited to see in these practices, in these camps. I want to see if he can pick it up with the pads on. You have certain coaches tell me, minicamp's great, but everybody's in pajamas, right? So let's see how he does with the pads on. Let's see if he's any shell of the player that we saw in Indianapolis. The Eagles there was talk they were going to try him in the slot. We never really got to see that in minicamp. I don't think that's going to be an option, too. I think they would like to, but they have options there, Cooper DeJean and Devontae Maddox and Tyler Hall. So let's say Isaiah Rodgers is good depth on the outside at cornerback.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, looking at Eagles camp, preview of their camp that starts tomorrow. We mentioned you like the one guy of the group of, the young guys is Kaylee Ringo, but Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, Tyler Hall was also signed. People forget about him. He's a legitimate and it has NFL reps under his belt. Where are those guys on the depth chart for you?
I'm not going to sleep on Tyler Hall. I think he has a chance to make this team, maybe even over Avonte Maddox, depending on how things shake out. And look, Hall, he can play the slot. He's a good special teamer. I'm trying to remember if he has experience with Fangio or not. I got to look that up. But I do like what he brings. But this is such a deep room. Where does he fit into the puzzle? Can he – because DeGene ain't going anywhere. Avonte Maddox is on a one-year deal, so you don't owe him much, even though he has the experience. Can he beat out Avonte Maddox and get a slot on this team? Here's another question I want to present, Mike. There's no way this team keeps 7 corners, right?
My follow-up to you was, what's the number, 6, or do they say, you know what, we have so many guys we like here, we'll keep a 7th guy, and maybe that guy's Maddox who could play both safety and corner.
Yeah, exactly. Or Cooper DeJean, he can do that.
That's true too.
I'm the guy who says Cooper DeJean can be an all-pro safety, so you got to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Let's also bring into the conversation what happens with Bradbury tomorrow.
You know what, Mike? It's funny you mentioned that because right before I came on, I just sent in my story about 10 thoughts I have on the Eagles going into camp. It's a shame I didn't get it published before we came on here because this would have been a good topic. But topic 9 was the game of chicken with James Bradbury is coming to a head, right? Who's going to get hit by the car first? And are the Eagles really going to wait till September 1st to get rid of this guy, or are they going to settle it now? I don't know.
Why have they not done anything with him yet?
I think they're trying to get something for him, but would you trade for him right now?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, this whole thing to me is highly intriguing. Like, if I'm Vic Fangio, doesn't Bradbury fit my scheme?
You would think, right?
Right. So I at least, I guess, want to see if if last year was a case of him not fitting what they wanted him to do. And does he have anything left in the tank? Is he closer to the guy they had 2 years ago than he was last year? I think if I'm Vic Fangio, I want to see him play corner in my scheme, and then we make the decision. But they moving him to safety in the mini camps, I think put a cloud over everything.
And he fell right away, too. That was one of the most weirdest things I've ever seen at a mini camp. Like Nick just drops he's going to play safety, and then he falls right away, and then you never see him again. It's like, okay, like, are they going to get rid of this guy or not? And I'm with you, Mike. I kind of want to see what he is at quarterback, but do the Eagles want to stunt the development of Quinyon Mitchell, Kelee Ringo, Cooper DeJean, who they are going to play outside at times, Isaiah Rodgers? Like, they really, and that was point 8 I made. They did any flowers you want to give this team for what they've done at cornerback, give it to them, because they figured out how to make this position probably one of the strongest on the team in literally 6 months.
We're going to have to bring you back, maybe on Friday's show, to go through these 10 thoughts as we end the week here. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, that'll be a good list. Check it out over at cbssports.com. One of the other things you're writing about right now about Eagles camp is the concerns at linebacker. So while there's a ton of intriguing names at the corner spot, how do you feel about the names at the linebacker spot?
I still say it was an organizational malpractice what they did at that position. And look, I know you can't fix everything, right? But just what they brought in, and look, I'm going off my Tampa Bay Buccaneers sources here on Devin White, but that was don't let the door hit you on the way out when it came to him. And a lot of them liked him, too, said maybe a change of series is what he is. But, the guy's only under a 1-year contract. It's not really guaranteed.
Well, let me ask you this question. Devin White and Nakobe Dean, if healthy, are they better than Nick Morrow and Zach Cunningham?
They can't be any worse. I mean, think about this. Zach Cunningham is not in the league right now.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't in the league at this point last year either, so
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I still remember that, Mike. If you want a good training camp story, I'm driving to the link, and I literally pull in, and I get this text. The Eagles just signed 2 new linebackers. I'm like, okay, and then, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's training camp. Then it's Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham. We're like, oh no, you failed to point that one out to me.
Right.
You signed guys who could start on this team because it was that bad. And I don't think they ever liked Morrow. I actually thought they got more out of Morrow than what they thought they were going to. I thought Morrow was going to get cut last year.
Yeah. Well, he didn't make the team originally, right?
Yeah,
they brought him back.
Exactly. So I guess we were right on that. But
what do they think Nakobe Dean is?
I don't know. I don't think they can tell you. I mean, when he was on the field last year, he wasn't good. That's what concerns me. And he's been off the field more than he's on it. I mean, he did play every game his rookie year, but he couldn't start.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy does have a knack of finding the football, but is he big enough? He's a likable guy. Like, I really like him.
Well, I mean, his story's interesting. I mean, everybody knows him from college. I mean, he's a college star. And a lot of times when you get a college star, right, when you get a college star, you're wondering how he, translates to the NFL. There are people that thought he should have been a first-round pick. When he doesn't get drafted in the first round, and now he's laced into the third round, the expectations are, holy mackerel, you got a first-round player in the third round. We've seen nothing of the sort.
Yeah, you know what? You basically got a third-round pick. Right? That's what you took a flyer on the guy.
Oren Burks and obviously Zach Bond, they're the two other guys. Are those guys upgrades over Nick Morrow? Or are any of those guys someone that you say that could be the X factor? Ben Van Sumeren, let's throw him in there. And then, of course, there's Jeremiah Trotter.
Van Sumeren's the guy that was an undrafted free agent last year. I like a lot more than probably a lot of other people do. I thought, watching some of his tape from last year, and again, I'm not a film genius or anything, but I did play linebacker at one point in my life. Like, wow, this guy is not a bad football player. And you're looking at a guy like him, and I'm thinking, it's unfair to compare him, but you got to compare the situation. It's TJ Edwards, right? TJ Edwards was an undrafted free agent. The Eagles gave a lot of money to, just like BVS. And Ben, TJ Edwards played a little bit at the end of his rookie year and became a star in year 2. Why can't Ben Van Sumeren do that? He's athletic. The guy played running back in college, so he can. He's athletic.
Yeah.
And with this scenario, I'd like to see him get a fair shot at winning a job. I think he's going to make this team, but I think there's a possibility he could start.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr., we know the lineage, but in your mind, is he an NFL linebacker?
I love the kid. I really do. And I'm going to be rooting. Like I said, I root for players a lot. I really want to see his kid do well. But I hope Eagles fans temper their expectations because, just because his last name's Trotter. And look, he's going to be prepared because his dad will make sure of that. But I do not want this kid starting early and failing. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to develop this kid. And I think he's a guy I can't wait to see in the preseason. I want to see what he can do. But I think he was a 5th-round pick for a reason. And I just want to give him an opportunity. I don't want him being thrown in the fire. Or as I like to tell people, remember Macho Harris, Mike Gill?
Yeah, I do. Virginia
I don't
Tech.
want him being Macho Harris, like starting and then you never hear from him again.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports NFL. 5 breakout candidates for the Eagles he has over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Ben Van Sumeren, you have listed as one of them, as a breakout candidate. So let's go back to him for a second. Does he start over Devin White and or Nakobe Dean?
Maybe not right away, but I think at some point this season he could. And it might be Devin White because I think Eagles are going to give Nakobe Dean every opportunity. Now, again, and I wrote about this too in my 10 thoughts, Mike. Devin White and Nakobe Dean can answer a lot of questions just by being complacent, right? You don't need them to be superstars. You just kind of need them to be not bad. And if you can do that, all of a sudden, I'm not saying they have depth at linebacker. It's still a bad position, but they can't be like, what did PFF rank him, like 29th or 30th? You remember, did you see those rankings?
I did not, no.
Well, like, would you take if the Eagles were like 16th at linebacker this year?
Yeah, I mean, if they just get the year, look, when they had TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, those guys didn't hurt you. They weren't guys who were playmakers or causing turnovers. They just didn't – they weren't like negative negatives on the field.
Don't you think it's funny how the 2 years they had linebackers, they went to the Super Bowl?
Well, you wrote about this over at CBS Sports. The best teams right now, defenses, they have good linebackers.
Yeah, every single one of them. And, it's funny when I was in Baltimore last year for the playoffs, and I always like to joke about this, and I was telling a couple of the beat writers, I said, well, so this is what it's like to have a good linebacker. And they're like, yeah, you guys never heard of it. I'm like, the last, and like, it was a Trotter joke. I think the last time the Eagles had a good linebacker was Jeremiah Trotter.
Right. Let's dive into a couple other guys that you list. The one guy I want to get your thoughts on is Nolan Smith. Drafted at the end of the first round. People are excited. Another Georgia guy. Essentially did nothing last year. So in the society that we live in today, if you don't do something as a rookie, you're generally written off. But you seem to be high on him, and so is Darius Slay.
Yeah. And again, Howie Roseman said this. He should have played more last year.
But where does he fit? Where does he fit in? I guess you got Bryce Huff, Josh, Smith, Josh Sweat. Where does he fit in?
I think he's the third guy in that rotation, right? I think Brandon Graham's going to play more than a lot of people think. That's another concern. That again, I'm glad you brought this up, Mike, because that's another thing I wrote about. The concern from the pass rush are legitimate, right? Bryce Huff has never played over 50% of the snaps. Do we really think he's going to be a Son Reddick? If he is, awesome. Or if he is like that next year, even better. But for 2024, wouldn't you think this team would have been? And I know, look, I'm not blaming the Eagles for it. I agree with them 100% on the business front of it. But the talent front, I think they would have been better off keeping Son Reddick this year and just paying him for 1 year.
Well, yeah. Well, what do you think of the whole Reddick thing now? I mean, this thing has turned into an interesting mess, huh?
I'm not shocked. He wants a contract. He deserves a contract. He's grossly underpaid. He's retweeted me once when I said that. He was grossly underpaid.
Weird situation. All right, couple more for Jeff. Breakout players, you have Cooper DeJean. Now, it's hard for a rookie to be a breakout player, but you included him. Why?
All right, Mike, here's a trivia question for you. You don't have to answer if you don't need to. Do you know the last rookie cornerback to start before week 5 for the Eagles?
Last rookie?
Yes.
Last rookie corner.
You're going to have to think back here. And he was a really good football player.
No. I mean, you're going Roynell Young?
You're not that far back, but Eric Allen.
Okay, Eric Allen. That's a while back.
The guy. I was going to say the guy should probably be in the Hall of Fame. If we're being honest with ourselves. But yeah, I mean that's how long it's been, and you might have two guys in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean that could start for this team week 1. I think Cooper DeJean they're going to use a lot. They're going to use him in outside corner. I think you're going to see him in the slot. I think we'll see him in safety at times maybe as a punt returner. I doubt he'll take that job from Covey, but he can do it. I mean, the guy is kind of the do it all for you, Dolly, in the secondary, and that was why, it's funny how you rethink things, right? If someone would have told me the Eagles would have drafted Cooper DeJean at 22, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But you draft him at 40, and you're like, oh, man, what a steal. What a, kind of like the Kobe Dean thing, right? But I keep watching. You know me, Mike. I watch a lot of Big Ten football, and I think this guy could be an all-pro safety if they would put him there. I really do. I think he has all the tools to be a stud at safety, but I like him at slot corner too.
Well, you say slot corner. We didn't really talk a lot about Avonte Maddox, but do you enter camp with Avonte Maddox as your top slot guy?
I think you enter camp with Avonte Maddox as your top slot guy, but as we all know, things can change, right? You enter camp as Tyler Steen as your top right guard, but will he be that in 6 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mekhi Becton. It's funny how we didn't get to Mekhi Becton yet.
All right, well, listen, there's so many questions on defense. The offense, you feel now this whole offensive conversation regarding Sirianni and the offensive play calling, and he's kind of given everything over to Kellen Moore. And what do you make of how what has transpired in the Diana Rossini, Chase Daniel Scoop City podcast? Was there any revealing stuff in that for you?
Not to me. I mean, it's just regurgitation of information we probably already know. I mean, her interview with Saquon Barkley was great, by the way, but, it's nothing I haven't heard. I'll just say that. But this is what I think. I think it's been very unfair to the Eagles organization that they have had to deal with this dark cloud on a good offseason if Jalen Hurts gets along with the head coach or not. Because Jalen has seemed to avoid every single opportunity.
Well, I mean, all right, let's get into this real quick. Do you think there's a rift there?
I don't know. I really don't. Like, if there was, maybe there was a rift.
All right, so let me ask you. The coach is back. Now, there people are suggesting he wasn't actually on the hot seat, and Lori thinks he's like an Andy Reid type of level, yada, yada, all that stuff. But don't you think that they had to sit down with them individually? Hey.
They had to, right?
Jalen, do you get along with Sirianni? Can you continue this relationship? And if he says, no, guys, I don't think I can, Sirianni's gone, right?
Exactly. I think if there was a riff, it was during last year on how things were handled at the end of the season. I think it's a new year, a new dawn. And maybe Hurts doesn't want to, but Hurts, I think, needed to go out and say better than the answer we got. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And it sucks for the Eagles that they have to deal with this. It really does. It does suck.
I don't know, man. We'll see a lot tomorrow. It all start out to see the first thing you're looking at. I'm imagining if Jeff Kerr's standing on the sidelines tomorrow and you were able to stand there and watch the whole practice. I know they don't let you do that, but the first thing you're watching would be what?
Ooh.
Ooh.
For my excitement, the secondary, because I'm excited to see how that turns out. Definitely the defense. I think the defense is something that we're going to have to monitor all year. Look, and I have said this before. If Vic Fangio could turn this defense into a top half defense or 16, that's a win. Because, remember, this team won 11 games last year. Their defense was brutal.
Yeah, well, listen, there was a lot of questions about last year that we can't answer with the way they finished that season. One thing I want to see is, what does that offense look like? Because what we saw at the end of last year was, I don't even know how to explain what we saw at the end of last year.
Mike, as a radio guy, when did you kind of stop talking about that collapse?
I don't know that we ever have. I mean, I think anytime you're talking football throughout the offseason, with any chance you get, you're trying to pick someone's brain. We had Fletcher Cox on at the Super Bowl. We asked him. We had, various insiders and reporters and former players all throughout the offseason to get their opinion on it. Nobody seems to have the right, or I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer. Everybody seems to have a different opinion on it.
Or it's a collection of answers, right?
Yeah.
And, I just think it's funny in week 12 of last season, you would never, ever in a million years question Jalen Hurts' leadership. And all of a sudden, 7 weeks later, you're questioning his leadership.
Well, that's the funny part because, when he got drafted, the first thing, or the year that, they traded Wentz and now you have, him take over, Hurts, nobody said, man, this guy has a great arm or he's overly accurate or he's a great decision maker. The one thing universally everybody said was, man, he's a great leader.
This is the sports psychologist in me. I don't have a psychology degree, but I've taken a couple classes on this. I'm big in the whole winning and losing thing. I think when you're a winning player pretty much your whole life, right? This guy has won his entire life. His teams have won. When has Jalen Hurts ever lost 6 or 7 in anything?
Probably never. I don't know. He's lost 7 games. He probably hasn't lost 7 games in his high school collegiate career combined.
Yeah. Do you think he knows how to handle that? Like, it's funny, right? Because I've been on the opposite end. I was on football teams growing up. This is before high school. I was on an 8th grade team that went 0-10, but we had 10 all-league players because we only had 14 kids. But you can't win with 14 kids in a whole football team. You can't.
It all starts tomorrow at the NovaCare Complex. And, of course, Nick Sirianni talking at 9 o'clock. All of these questions will start to get answered, and we're glad to have him back. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We're looking forward to your 10 thoughts article. We'll have to get you on later in the week, man.
Oh yeah, and you know what's funny? It's all like before like the practices start, but they're all gonna be relevant, Mike. I'll just give you a preview here. It's like Saquon Barkley. It's the third wide receiver. It's Jalen Hurts. It's Nick Sirianni. It's Kellen Moore. But by the way, I have to add this with Kellen Moore. I don't think 95% of the offense is new, but I think it's new terminology for him.
Well, guess what? I can't wait to see it.
Yep.
All right, man. We'll talk to you. All right,
Thanks,
Jeff Kerr, everybody. CBS Sports here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.